This is a fig tree behind me here. I moved into this house over 20 years ago, and that tree was there, and it was big at that time. It has continued to grow. I don't know how old it is, if it's 30, 40, 50 years old. What I know is that I don't water it specially, I don't fertilize it specially, and every year it gives me plenty of fruit and plenty of leaves. That tree is firmly rooted and established in this backyard. Paul, I love the way he writes. He writes in very logical ways, right? He gives us handholds to grab onto as he writes through his letters to people. In the book of Ephesians, we talked last week about the kind of love that Jesus has for us, right? The early part of Ephesians 3, it's that love that loved us when we weren't lovable, when we were against God. Jesus died on the cross for us, right? Well, that chapter continues on. The end of chapter 3 says, I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may know the power of God. Rooted and established in love. Paul says the kind of love that we're talking about is that selfless, grace and mercy-giving love that Jesus expressed to us. And I pray that your faith is not rooted in good doctrine, or not rooted just in hope, or not rooted just in faith, or rooted in good behavior. Because he understands the soil of our faith is love, and out of that, all of those other things will grow. Paul continues on. Remember, this is just a letter. We break it up into chapters. So the beginning of chapter 4, he then pivots to, this is what it means if you're rooted and established in love, that you know the power, that you know how high and how deep and how wide is that love of God, right? And then in chapter 4 it says, and because of that, you'll be unified. Because of that, your community will be powerful. Because of that, you will be humble and gracious and merciful to one another. Because of that, you will bear with one another and forgive one another. But Paul says the foundation, the place where we get the nourishment for our faith and our behavior and our actions is out of love. And that love is a love that God showed us first. So today, as we move into this day, Paul does say, hey, let's be humble, let's be gentle, let's be kind, let's be forgiving, let's be unified. But he says, don't just start grabbing at those things. First, understand the love that God had for you and root your life in that love. Like this tree behind me that gets all of its nourishment from this soil in the backyard, all of our nourishment, all that we need for following God is understanding the love that he had for us and rooting and establishing ourselves in that love. And out of that, the rest will grow. So today, let's stop for a second. Let's understand who God's love is, what God's love looked like towards us. Let's set our minds and our hearts and our knowledge on that so that today our behaviors, our words, our thoughts come out of the soil of love that God first showed us. Have a great one.